Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you once again for joining us. Now, imagine you are surrounded by thousands, desperate for escape, crammed onto a ship that is sailing through icy waters. Suddenly, an explosion rips through the ship. Panic sets in as the freezing sea rises, threatening to swallow all of you. That is not just a story. It is not just a nightmare. This was the harrowing reality for countless refugees who are fleeing the horrors of World War II during the sinking of Wilhelm Gustloff. How do you pronounce that? Wilhelm Gustloff, the deadliest maritime disaster in history. Are you familiar with the Titanic? Well, Titanic was just a scratch of the iceberg. We had another deadliest maritime disaster in history with estimated over 9,000 casualties in the Baltic Sea. Under which vessel? The Wilhelm Gustloff. So I want us to understand the Gustloff sinking through the eyes of Ruta Sepetys' novel Salt to the Sea. So I want us to understand the environment, the situation at the time when Gustloff was sinking through a story. I know a story will do much better than maybe just explaining it to you. I can explain that through Ruta Sepetys' story of a novel, and the novel that she has written is Salt to the Sea. Salt to the Sea. So, well, Salt to the Sea is a name or the title of a novel that vividly explains the sinking of Gustloff. But it's not just about a tragedy. So, Salt to the Sea, the title of that novel, is not just about that tragedy. Remember, it is a real story. But it is also a story of resilience, hope, and the enduring power of the human spirit amidst the unimaginable darkness. So will you join me as I dive deeper into Salt to the Sea, as we try to understand first-hand information of the Gustloff sinking through the eyes of 4 characters in this book? Well, I know you will be interested, and I hope that you will enjoy the ride with me as we try to have that vivid picture of the Gustloff sinking, right? So remember, I've said that I'll bring this picture to you in form of a story, and it's not just my story that I've created. I'm using Ruta's story in the novel Salt to the Sea. So the main topic of Salt to the Sea is the sinking of Wilhelm Gustloff and the experiences of the people who were on board, focusing particularly on 4 individuals who are Joanna, Florian, Emilia, and Alfred. So let's see the picture of the Gustloff sinking through the eyes of these 4 characters in this book. So this took place, the actual taking place of this disaster was in January 1945, during the final days of World War II. The Allied forces, what are the Allied forces? These were the military forces who were causing conflict, who are taking over, who are fighting, and so on. So these Allied forces were gaining ground both to the west and the east, and so German civilians were evacuating, fleeing violence and running toward the Baltic Sea, where the German Navy will transport them to safety. So we have the German civilians, right, who are now fleeing from their homes, and they want to flee through the Baltic Sea to another ground, to another place, to another country, you can call it a country, that is more safer. And how are they escaping? How are they fleeing for their safety? They are fleeing using these Wilhelm Gustloff vessel. So that's the means of transport that they'll be using to cross through the Baltic Sea to go to another land whereby now we have the Allied forces are not there, right? To safety. Simply, they are running to safety. There are so many, thousands. It's estimated to be around 10,000, right? So, what is this vessel? What's Wilhelm Gustloff? It's a name of a vessel. Wilhelm is W-I-L, Helm, that's H-E-L-M, then Gustloff. So Wilhelm Gustloff was a German leisure vessel and cruise ship which was converted by the German military into a transport ship to aid in the evacuation of German civilians in the end of the war. Although it originally had a capacity of less than 1,500 people, it eventually was made to accommodate over 10,000. So remember, sinking of Gustloff is a real story. The vessel sank within an hour after departing from the port. Those who had not been killed by the initial blast or by the chaos on board after the attack froze to death in the icy sea. So we are saying, maybe if you've not connected this story, this vessel, the Wilhelm Gustloff, was bombed, right, after an hour. So many people died in the first bombing. Others died when they were trying, because of the chaos, right? They wanted to flee to the safer side of the ship. Because of that chaos, others died in that process. Those who still survived, remember Baltic Sea was icy. They died in the icy sea. Look at that tragedy. That's why we are calling it the worst maritime tragedy ever recorded in history. Right? So as the Soviet army relentlessly advanced through the East Prussia, 4 individuals who we've mentioned, who from vastly different backgrounds, found themselves united by their shared hope of escape abroad or aboarding the Gustloff, which we've said was a German passenger ship which was promising safe passage to a safer ground. Right? So these 4 individuals were, or these 4 characters, according to this book by Ruta, were Joanna, who was a Lithuanian refugee who was allowed to resettle in Germany. We have Emilia, a pregnant Polish teenager trying to escape the genocide against her people. Florian, a former art restorer smuggling a stolen statue from the Nazis. You have Alfred, a delusional Nazi soldier working on the Gustloff. So let me give you the plot summary of the events that took place, right? So the story follows these 4 individuals who are fleeing the advancing Soviet army in East Prussia. So Emilia meets Florian, who saves her from a Soviet soldier and becomes attached to him, right? So we have now Emilia and Florian meet each other. I remember Florian, we've said was a former art restorer, was smuggling something from the Nazis. So he saved Emilia from a Soviet soldier, right? And the two have something. They get attracted to each other, right? Then the two now, Emilia and Florian, join Joanna. Joanna is another character now. They join Joanna and other refugees on their journey towards the Baltic Sea. So we now have 3 characters now. So the group encounters hardships. Remember, they're still fighting and killing and bombing, so on and so on. So the group encounters hardships and loss, including the death of one of their group members. Remember, they are now moving towards the Baltic Sea, and along the way they are meeting other people who are also rushing to the same port for a safe passage to on the other safer side. So on the way, one of their friends is attacked in a plane. That's it. It's attacked in a plane attack. He is killed in a plane attack. Right now, unfortunately, they reach the port of Gottenhafen, Gottenhafen, and board the Wilhelm Gustloff, and they are hoping for a safe passage. Now they are now at the port. So Joanna works as a nurse. Do you remember Joanna? Joanna was among this group, one of the group that is with Emilia and Florian. So Joanna works as a nurse and cares for Emilia. Remember, Emilia was a pregnant teenager. Where did she get her pregnancy? She was raped by the soldiers, the Soviet army soldiers. See that brutality. So Joanna is a nurse. So she takes care of Emilia, and Emilia in the ship gives birth to a daughter, and she names Alinka. So Florian entrusts his stolen art to Amber, that is the Amber Swan, to Alfred. But as the journey progresses, the Gustloff is torpedoed by Allied forces and begins to sink. So it's like it is bombed. That's exactly what happens. It might be a story, it might be a novel, but that's exactly what happened. After about an hour, this ship, the Gustloff, was hit by the Allied forces and it began to sink. With how many people on board? Over 10,000 people on board. So Joanna, Klaus, Florian, and Halinka, remember Halinka, managed to escape in a lifeboat. Remember we said there was that commotion. People wanted to escape to a safer, or that is to a lifeboat. Let's call it a lifeboat. So after the ship was torpedoed, or it was bombed, it began to sink. People died, right? Now, there are other people who died because of the commotion, because of the chaos, as they were managing to escape to a lifeboat, right? So Emilia remains on the sinking ship with Alfred. Alfred is consumed by guilt, and hypothermia attacks Emilia and falls to his death. Emilia freezes to death on the lifeboat, but finds peace in the afterlife. So it might be a story, yes, but that's exactly the situations and the picture that was there. Remember, this literature, the books that are written, they always try to present information or give us message that is happening in our contemporary world, number one, or it's trying to tell us history, right? For example, you might not really get an in-depth picture of how colonialism was unless maybe you read a book, right? For example, Things Fall Apart, right? If you read that book, Chinua Achebe tries to bring the picture of how colonialism was in the Igbo village of Nigeria, right? So it depicts the picture or tries to pass the message of colonialism, how it was during that time. So this could be a novel, yes, but it depicts or displays a picture, presents the message of how the situation was and how the ship sank, the Gustloff sinking. Well, that's how the sinking happened. That's the massacre that was there. Remember, I'm bringing this from this book that is titled Salt to the Sea. And you might be asking yourself, why did the writer give this book or this novel such a title? Is it significant to the events that took place at the Baltic Sea, the icy waters? What is the relevance of this title? What is really the meaning? Why wouldn't she give this book another title? So do you want to find out why the book is titled Salt to the Sea? Well, I know you will be able to want to know that, but there may be several interpretations, because the writer has not explicitly stated the reason for the title, but there are several interpretations that we can have, right? First, it can mean loss of life. So the title most likely refers to the immense loss of life during the sinking of Gustloff. Over 9,000 people lost their life. So Adding salt to the sea is a traditional practice of honoring the dead at the sea, symbolizing tears and grief of those left behind. So the title could be interpreted as a tribute to the victims of this tragedy, or a reflection on the futility of war and the suffering it inflicts. So the title could be seen as what? It symbolizes the tears and the grief of those who are left behind. It's a way of honoring the dead at the sea. Right? Sprinkling of salt to the sea. Right? Number 2, the title could be seen as the sea can be seen as a grave. Right? So sea becomes a massive grave for the victims of the sinking. Salt to the sea preserves their remains and becomes a constant reminder of their loss. Hear that? Salt of the sea. Of course, salt in the sea, you understand that? So salt of the sea can be seen as a preservative of their remains and become a constant reminder of their loss. So the title could be seen as a metaphor for the way that war can leave a permanent mark on the world. So we are seeing the title, we can use the title as, it can mean a grave. Preserving is preserving the people who are massacred in that. And salt can be seen as a preservative of them, right? Number 3, it can also mean the characters' journeys. We've talked of 4 characters. So each of the characters in the book carries their own burdens and sorrows. So the salt or the sea represents the challenges they face and the uncertainty of their futures. Adding salt to the sea can be seen as a way of acknowledging their pain and hardship. Number 4, the title could also mean purification and renewal. Purification and renewal. Because salt of the sea can also be seen as a symbol of purification and renewal, because the characters' experiences on the Gustloff may lead them to confront their pasts and find a new way forward. The title could be interpreted as a hopeful message about the possibility of healing and rebuilding after trauma. Another thing that maybe I was thinking is that when those people were dying, they were crying, right? There was so much crying, there was so much sorrow. And remember, cries, our tears have what? They have salt. So look at those 9,000 people crying, right? Their tears flowing into the sea. So that's a lot of saltiness because of their tears. So the title could have all those different interpretations that we've talked about. And that's probably why Ruta decided to give this book such a title, Salt to the Sea. Do you now understand it better? Good. Right. Well, I might not go to everything about the novel, but we have a great summary for you, an in-depth summary for you that you can check in from our website, that is vidanmeds.com/blog. Then you can search in the search bar Salt to the Sea synopsis or Salt to the Sea summary. You'll find it there. Or I'll also leave a link to the same in our description of this video, then or this audio. You can have a look at it, and it will take you direct to that in-depth summary. Please let's know what your thoughts are after you get in there. So what are some of the maybe ideas which this book presents, apart from the tragedy, the sinking of the Gustloff? What are some of the other things that we can learn, or some of the other things that stand out from such an experience? It's not necessarily from the novel, but from such an experience. Why were these people fleeing? It was because of war. So we can know, or we can see some of the devastating consequences of war. Was it not because of war? Right? These people could not have died. Over 9,000. This ship could not have sunk. Right? So war and its devastating consequences is one of the things that such a situation can teach us. So the novel portrays the devastating impact of war in individuals and communities. The characters experience loss, trauma, violence, and displacement. All those are negative effects of war. experience loss, trauma, violence, and displacement. So the sinking of Gustloff is a reminder of the human cost of war and the suffering it inflicts on the people. So the characters are forced to grapple with ethical consequences of war and the choices they make in desperate circumstances. So what another thing that maybe comes out from this book or from such situation is survival and resilience in the face of hardship. Human spirit is resilient. So despite the overwhelming challenges that they face, the characters demonstrate remarkable courage and resilience. So they fight for survival, find ways to support each other, and rely on each other, and hold on to hope for a better future. The novel celebrates the human spirit's strength and capacity to endure even in the hardest times. So we also have something that we talk of loss, grief, and the search for meaning. So have the identity of belonging in a world that is shattered by war, memory, and the importance of learning from history. See that? Probably we were not there during the sinking. It was 1945, we said so? 1945? That's a long time ago. Probably you were not even born. I was actually not born. So the importance of memory and learning from it. That's why telling your story is so important. Was it not for Ruta to paint this picture for us, probably we will not have known how the situation was, right? So the novel reminds us of the importance of remembering the past and learning from history. By telling the story of the Gustloff, Ruta ensures that this tragedy is not forgotten and that its lessons are not lost. So that when our governments or when citizens of a certain country think of war, they can always relate to the consequences that in 1945 was faced, right? So the novel encourages us to reflect on the consequences of war and the importance of working towards peace and understanding. So when you go to a novel, you'll get those themes. You can call them themes or takeaways. I've also given you a summary of the chapter titles and main sections. You'll also get the takeaways and conclusions. Bio of Ruta Sepetys, the author of this book. You'll also learn about this book and some other books. There are so many other books that have been written about World War II or generally about war. So I'll give you a comparison between this book and those other books. Then maybe the target audience and readership, the critical response of this book. I'll also give you a list of other books, recommendations of other books that are related to this one that you can also have a look. They include All the Light We Cannot See. It's one of them. The Book Thief, Between Shades of Grey, The Girl in the Blue Coat, The Nightingale, right? All those are books that I've tried to explain what they deal with in the summary. So you need to go to that summary and have a look. Then, so this was not just a novel that was a good read that was probably presenting us or letting us remember the history of what happened with the Gustloff. There are some lessons that probably you've seen that you can learn from that, right? So how can we apply those lessons that we learn in real life? So that book, Salt to the Sea, offers great lessons about humanity in the face of war and adversity. So those lessons transcend historical context, and they offer valuable insights which we can apply in our real life situations. So, for example, compassion and empathy. For example, we said Joanna was a nurse, prioritized caring for others even in dire circumstances. She treated Emilia during her pregnancy and helped her deliver her baby, Halinka. How can we apply that now? We can cultivate compassion and empathy by actively listening to others, offering support during their struggles, and volunteering our time and resources to those in need. That's a great lesson we learned from the book. Courage and resilience is another thing that we learn from the book. So, for example, through their journeys, the characters faced immense hardship and loss. Emilia escapes genocide, and Florian flees with a stolen artifact, risking his life. How can we apply that? So we can develop our courage and resilience by facing our fears, overcoming challenges, and learning from our mistakes. We can also support others in their struggles and foster resilience in our communities. Practical things that you can do. So, memory and remembrance. Memory and remembrance. For example, the novel emphasizes on the importance of remembering the victims of war and honoring their stories. The final letter from the book serves as a reminder that their lives and experiences really matter. So we can apply that in real life by doing what? We can honor the past by learning about historical events, studying the legacies of those who came before us, and share their stories with future generations. We can also actively oppose injustice and strive for a more peaceful world. So beyond those specific lessons, this book also, The Salt to the Sea, also encourages us to value human life. We should treat everyone with respect and dignity, regardless of their background or circumstances. We are also encouraged to embrace diversity, recognize and celebrate differences in culture, ethnicity, and beliefs. We are also encouraged to stand up for what is right, speak out against injustice, and fight for a world free from prejudice and discrimination. We are also encouraged to promote peace and understanding. How do we do this? Can build bridges between communities and foster empathy and tolerance. So while we may not face the same level of hardship as the characters in Salt to the Sea or the people who are in the Gustloff, the lessons that such a situation, such a setting, such an occurrence paints to us offer relevant and valuable guidance for navigating challenges in life. And by incorporating the lessons that we learn, immerse yourself in such a situation, immerse yourself in such a time, right? So by incorporating the lessons that probably we learn into our daily lives, we can strive for a more compassionate, just, and peaceful world. So that is the Gustloff sinking through the eyes of Ruta Sepetys' novel Salt to the Sea. I hope you've gotten a better picture, and I said because I was just going over the main things, you can go over to our summary, our written summary, our write-up of this summary in our website, vidanmeds.com/blog. Then look for Salt to the Sea synopsis. There's also a link to the same below this video or below the description. Please click to that summary and read that summary and see an in-depth overview of the situation, right? Of how it was during that end of World War II. But in the meantime, you have a greater and a better picture of what happened and how the ship, the Wilhelm Gustloff, sank in the Baltic Sea. And that marks the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I would like you to maybe help us grow by sharing, liking, commenting, and even inviting your friends to listen to this. And also I'll ask you you can even support us. If you want to buy the book as a hard copy, you can support us by buying it through the affiliate link that we have in our write-up summary. So thank you once again for your time, and until next time, ensure that you continue reading, evolving, and becoming better each day. I was your host Daniel from vidanmeds.com. Bye for now.